Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion for Sunday, September 23rd, 2018. Tropics still very busy in the Atlantic, getting busy again in the Eastern Pacific. We'll look at that as well in just a moment. This is Invest Area 98L, I guess it is, now downgraded to a low chance of development overall. We'll look at a satellite picture of all of this in just a moment. And then we have subtropical storm Leslie that has formed out of a rather complex area of weather up in this neck of the woods. Again, we will refer to the satellite animation to help us kind of understand all of this. And then the remnants of Tropical Depression 11 probably won't bring much more than just some cloudiness, maybe a few showers and thunderstorms to parts of the Lesser Antilles, but that's about it. And then we will be watching Kirk, which is moving very quickly now to the west at 21 miles per hour, embedded on the south side of a pretty strong ridge out here, pushing this along really quickly. And it's a very large system. We can look at that here on the satellite animation, courtesy of Tropical Tidbits. A very interesting overall pattern. You've got these low pressure areas swirling around. This one is Leslie up here. We'll put an L for Leslie. And it's a subtropical storm, and you can see the difference here. It's, sort of loosely organized, almost like a cinnamon roll. You see those, either a Cinnabon or whatever. And this fits perfectly because it's all kind of curled up with these large, spread out bands of clouds instead of a concentrated area of energy like you see down here with Kirk. Even though Kirk is not exactly going gangbusters, this is a better example of a tropical system bundling the energy around a smaller, more potent area of low pressure, whereas this is much more spread out, kind of like your big ocean storm. And if it sits here long enough over these fairly warm waters, it can bundle the energy better and become more tropical in nature. And I think it's going to do that, and I think it's going to be around for quite a while. Over here, this is Invest Area 98L, just a tiny amount of the DNA, if you will, left over from Florence, but most of the energy from Florence probably took off in the jet stream up here. And so even if this were to come back and become a tropical storm, it would not be Florence. It would be a completely new system, but it does not look like that's going to happen. Upper level winds are going to be too strong in this area as it approaches the southeast coast. Nevertheless, it could bring an increase in showers and some rain and maybe some locally rough seas, but nothing you can't handle, and maybe a little bit of fresh water falling from the sky, as long as it's not too much, could help wash away some of the rather unpleasant leftovers of Florence. And this will really be extreme eastern North Carolina, I think, and that's about it. But we'll watch this as it progresses. Again, down here, the remnants of TD11, which is being shredded by the strong upper level winds coming out of the Caribbean. Then, of course, there's Kirk, and we'll watch this as it moves progressively westward towards the eastern Caribbean Sea. I really don't know what the long-term prospects of Kirk and for Kirk will be. The models seem to dissipate it in this area. You never know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens over the coming days. But it is moving quickly, and by the end of the coming work week, it should be approaching, as an example, Barbados in vicinity. So we will be watching that as it evolves. All right, so let me go back. I do want to look at the Eastern Pacific as promised. So we do have a couple of areas trying to percolate here. It's best to look at the 5-day outlook. One area way out in the East Central Pacific, I guess you'd call it, and we'll watch this just in case it tries to develop more and possibly head towards Hawaii, but only a 20% chance of development over the next 5 days, whereas this system, well on its way to becoming the next tropical depression, and it too should just generally move off to the west and west-northwest as fairly strong ridging still exists over this area. No big troughs carving out west yet to turn these systems north into the Baja. It's kind of surprising that hasn't happened yet, but certainly great news for Mexico and elsewhere. Southern California, yeah, absolutely. You never know. So far so good. Looking at the river situation, they're starting to go down in eastern North Carolina. You think about all the rain that fell through this region, and it falls into what are called catchment basins, and these different streams and tributaries and creeks and marsh areas and swamps drain into the larger river systems, and then those fill up, spread out, and that whole overland surge of water, all of those eventually make it down to the ocean. Remember Finding Nemo? All drains lead to the ocean, and these are all headed towards the ocean down here. There's a lot more that I'm drawing in here. So it just takes time for that flow of water to work with gravity and make its way, all that water, from the sandhills out to the coastal plain down here and into the Atlantic Ocean. And as such, the misery is just slow motion. And it is terrible. It's very incessant. It's a very invasive, like vines, I said before in one of my documentaries, creeping up. And it can be deadly, especially for people that don't respect the power of water. Whether or not it's moving, it doesn't matter. Water is water. It'll drown you. We can't breathe water. So a couple things to point out. Conway, Waccamaw River, this is still going up, if you can believe that. And just a terrible situation down there. Some of the other rivers here, Little PD, finally should start to fall. This hasn't updated, though, I don't think. Look at that. It's still stuck on Friday. So this is outdated. Let me make sure this is not. No, this should be current here. What else? Are these up to date? Nope, that's still showing back at Thursday. So some of these are outdated. Use with caution. I do want to show you Wilmington. This is interesting. Set up a GoPro camera system for time-lapse right down on Water Street last night. And I was thinking that tomorrow that some of these peaks would be up here near the record, but they have revised it. So it's a little slower incoming, so it looks like it won't be until we can actually mouse over this. 8.1 feet, so just shy of the record by 1/10 of an inch, I guess, right? Tomorrow night. And the good thing about downtown in terms of trying to capture this in time-lapse, it's all lit up, the power's not turned off, etc. So if these peaks happen, and I may have to just go down and start the time-lapse over again, so I make sure I catch those peaks. If they happen, I think it'll be really fascinating to see the rise and the fall over 3 different tidal periods. So trying to get some science out of it, maybe see how things progressed. It just could be interesting. So yeah, the rivers, they're still doing their thing, gradually coming down, and then all this repair work that's going to have to happen throughout the road systems here, that's going to take time. And so we're kind of stuck in the middle part of the hurricane is over, people are out and about, power's back on, life's returning to normal from that perspective. The first world problems are seeming to be solved, seemingly being solved with electricity and internet coming back. But roads are washed out, supplies can't get in and out, people are trapped, people are hungry, people are in need, and it's hard to move around. So people are doing the best they can. And it's pretty remarkable to see the staging areas in and around Wilmington, different church parking lots, different big box retail parking lots, etc. Huge staging areas, and it's a Herculean effort. People coming together doing the best that they can with what they've got. So we all appreciate it. I know I do. I got my power on after 3 days. Some people are still without power. Those numbers are down, very close to getting back to 100%, but in the Wilmington area, but it's going to be slow going. So let's just take a look at the GFS. I want to show you the next 2 weeks, just kind of show you the pattern here, and I'm going to draw in what's what, and then I'll put it into motion. Here's the east coast of the U.S. There's Florida and Central America, north coast of South America, the west coast of Africa over here. This is the reflection at the 850 millibar level of 98L. This is the reflection of Leslie, much larger system. There's Kirk, and then this is XTD number 11. Remember all that? Good. Now let's put it all into motion, and I'll show you what's what. Speed it up one more tick. All right, so there's 98L. You can track that right on into the eastern part of North Carolina by midweek. This is whatever this is out here, Leslie or something new. I don't even know. But look, it tries to bundle really, really well and eventually becomes a hurricane and it gets yanked out to sea. We better hope that's what happens. My only concern with this system is if it sinks far enough west and south and then we get a big ridge to build out over the top and it sends it back towards the east coast. Not out of the realm of possibility, but it's not being shown in the operational models. I think we're okay. But as we learned with Florence, you just don't write these systems off until they are literally, I would say, north of 40 degrees latitude, which is about up here, if I understand the way they've drawn these correctly, right? Once they get north of there and they're headed out to sea into the North Atlantic, then we can breathe a sigh of relief. What else do we notice? We notice, too, that there's Kirk, and it heads towards the islands over here in about 5 or 6 days, generally moving west-northwest, so just north of due west, right over Barbados, perhaps. That's several days out. And then you notice it just kind of dies away, which is very unusual for this time of year, and we're not in an El Nino pattern, some raging strong El Nino that's just dumping sinking air and westerly winds across this area. So I'm a little perplexed as to, well, why does Kirk just go away like that? And you see the huge ridge that sets up over the southeast still over time, just one ridge after the other. You really notice that very prevalently right through here. Big heights up over Canada. Warm in the east, troughy, cooler out west, a little bit of a trough there. See that energy going by? That's that trough energy. And it all keeps missing what in the world ever this is. If it's Leslie or some, I don't even know. I mean, we have Leslie out there now. It's like, I guess that's going to remain Leslie throughout the period. Anyhow, that's what the GFS looks like over the next 2 weeks, just to give you an idea of how the pattern is oscillating and doing its thing as we get into fall here. It's officially fall. Can you believe it? All right. But it's hot as heck outside still here in eastern North Carolina. Mid-80s, upper 80s, but man, the humidity. Think about all that rain that is now wicking out of the ground and going back into the atmosphere through evapotranspiration. Ugh, it's horrible. And people are out cleaning up and all of this. Man, I tell you what doesn't kill us hopefully makes us stronger, and I want to add to that, smarter. We have to be smarter. All right, that's it for me for today. I'll cut it off from here at this point, and we'll go over some more starting tomorrow. The work week begins. I got to figure out some things that I'm going to be doing this coming week, and we'll go from there. It's not over yet. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. I'll speak at you some more tomorrow.